You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, that sucked. Baylor basketball goes to Detroit and just gets American History X curb stomped. Just curb stomped from the tip. It's going to end up being less than 40 points that they'll lose by, but that's going to flatter them a little bit. That was just awful. Awful, awful, awful. It actually doesn't even come close to describing it well. That's the worst performance in the Scott Drew era. And we've seen some other candidates the last couple of years. The one that this game screamed out to me from the first media timeout was the Marquette game last year. They lost by 26. I think they almost gave up 100 points in an NBA arena in the Midwest. Sounds familiar. Just horrendous. Horrendous. You cannot be the number 2 offense in the nation and score 17 points in the first half. Shoot, Baylor football can score 17 in the first half. That's so unacceptable, man. I don't care if you had a whole year off. That is unacceptable. And miss me with the excuse that there was 11 days off. That's the excuse when you don't look good the first 2 media timeouts. Not completely sucking and forgetting how to play the game of basketball. Because that's what this was today. They're just throwing the ball around. Absolutely no intensity. No one wanted to step up and be a leader on this team, which is the same crap we saw last year. That makes me think, boy, this sounds like watching the same movie again. Because remember how high we were on this team last year? I thought they had Final Four talent coming into the year. And they lost one to UVA, and then, they beat UCLA, and then a week later they lose by 30 to Marquette, and that team never got back. Never. And it was so frustrating to watch all season long, even at their highs. That's what's going to happen this year. That's what's going to happen this year. A team that comes in Michigan State that has the worst start of a top 5 team in 40 freaking years, man. 40 years. And all they needed to do was play the number 6 team in the country. All they needed to do was play Baylor to get back on track. It's football all over again. That's what happens when a team hits a rut. They just got to schedule Baylor, and it's all good. They're going to win the game by 40 points, man. This is so unacceptable. I don't care how many days. Great, 11 days off. Fine. Did they not practice the whole time? That's what it looked like. This looked like a team that forgot how to play and had no real interest in learning how to play again today. By the way, this Michigan State team lost to Duke. Lost to them. Transitive property is kicking your ass right now for the next game. And look, do you want them to get it out of their system early? Yeah, of course. But that's exactly what we said last year against Marquette. It's the exact thing. And you want them to get it out of their system early so they can learn from it. And they never got back to the heights that they had before Marquette last year. They never looked like a team that could get past the first weekend. And lo and behold, they didn't. I still think this team is better than last year. I do. But what I saw today was so disheartening. Because again, it was a team that went down early and nobody stepped up. Not one. Not one guy said, guys, this is not acceptable. This is not us. And if you guys aren't going to do it, I'm going to do it. Nobody did that. And I thought this team was different. I did. But this is humble pie, man. If you had told me that going into this weekend they're going to lose to Michigan State, I would have been surprised. As you could tell from yesterday's show, I thought they were going to win by 15 points, and I really still think they should have, having the knowledge that I had yesterday. But if you had told me, hey, they're going to lose to Michigan State, I'd be like, damn, man. That's one they should have had. But I'm sure Michigan State pulled out all the stops, got some miracles going to their side, and they won a close one. Fine, we'll be back against Duke. If you had told me they're going to lose by 30 points to a team that's 4-5, to a team that just lost to Nebraska, a team that's one of the worst in the nation at three-point shooting, is going to shoot over 70% against a perimeter defense like Baylor's, I would have had you committed. And instead, that's exactly what happened. And it wasn't even the shooting, man. This team was bullied inside. And it's not like they just had one dominant center, man. It was centers, forwards, guards, equipment managers, towel guys. Everyone was getting into the paint for Michigan State. I don't care how many days off you have. You cannot let a team that shoots 67% from three. There's a little bit of luck to that, sure. But, I mean, they shot 63% from the field. So how much luck actually is there? It just goes final. They lose by 24, by the way. That flatters Baylor. It truly does. 63% from the field? That's not luck. That is terrible defense. And for as much progression as they made from the first game of the season till Seton Hall, it's worse than it was game one. It's worse than it was game one. 31 of 49 from the field. That's putrid, paltry, disgusting. And they get up to 12 of 19 free throws. Good for you. Good for you, Baylor, because it was 1 for 6 at the under 12 timeout in the second half. I don't know which one's more embarrassing, that you shot 6 free throws or that you made just one of them. They were just absolutely bullied. 21 GD turnovers, man. 21 of them. And Michigan State scores off almost all of them. They get 29. 15 steals. 15 steals against you. That is not 11 days off. That is, boy, I got hit on the head. I don't know how to play basketball anymore. I wasn't happy, man. Not happy. And you know what it is? Worst of all, it just hurts my ego. Because I'm up here saying they're going to win by 15, 20 points yesterday. Boy, do I look like an idiot. Look, it doesn't take much to make me look like an idiot, okay? But at least do it in something that's not going to make me so mad. Jeez, man. I don't know. Does this change expectations for you? Because this changes expectations for me. I was like looking at my calendar for the first weekend in April and looking at flights. But I can't do that anymore. And now a team that I was so high on, that I thought was really special, now has to prove that they can get out of the first weekend, which they haven't done in the last 2 years. A team that I thought was Sharpie, Final Four, Elite Eight, now has to prove that they're a team that is worthy of getting out of the second round, because that was not it today. And I also don't care. I don't care how many days off they had. I also don't care, and I've seen a bunch of this on social media, I don't give a crap that it's a road game that's a neutral site. Who cares, man? You think it's going to be a home game when you're playing in New York City against Duke? That's where they all come from. LIU Durham. And you think, oh, that's not fair. This was a home game for Michigan State. No, it was in Detroit. We scheduled that. Scott Drew has enough confidence in his team to say, I don't care if it's a home game for Michigan State. We want to play the best. I don't care how many people are there. We can't be the same ones on a hype video that says any place, any time, and then say, oh, well, it was a home game for Michigan State. Cut it, man. That's what this is. You think Kansas was making that excuse when they were down 11 today to Indiana on Indiana's literal home court? No, they didn't. They won the game. They won the game. And Indiana's better than Michigan State. Because the program that we aspire to be, the elite status that we aspire to be as a basketball school, they don't make excuses like that. And this does not cut it. And we've had one of these each of the last 3 seasons. It was Marquette last year. It was at Kansas the year before. Sure, you're not going to win many games at Allen Fieldhouse. But the last 2 times they've lost by what, 20 each? Just terrible. Just terrible in any sense. Thank God for the women playing today. See what we got in the comments. Bear the Truth says, they looked like they were moving in slow motion compared to Michigan State. No hustle at all. Or Michigan State simply just had better athletes in better shape. I don't know, man. I can't say Michigan State clearly has the better athletes. They were 4-5. With again a better schedule than Baylor, sure, but they were 4-5. Ghosty boy. MSU was ranked 4th. Not a bad loss. When were they ranked 4th? A month ago. And then they lost more games than they won going into this. Shut up, man. That's the kind of attitude we can't have if we're supposed to be a serious basketball program. MSU was ranked 4th. They're 4-5 coming into this game. Appreciate the comment, though. Thank you for listening. Truly, I do appreciate that. What else we got? Luckily, we can redeem ourselves with Duke and then the last home game in the Farrell. Yeah, I mean, you got to. You got to, man. Duke is not what they were expected to be, but they've been better than Michigan State. Better than Michigan State, and that's a road game too. That is a Duke building. That is Cameron North at MSG. Just bad. Just bad. Bear the Truth again, not making excuses, but what do you think about the officiating? Yeah, I don't know. It didn't do much for me. There was a couple of calls that I was just befuddled by. One early in the second half when Baylor actually had, I guess you could call it a run. I think it was 7-0, where they threw an inbounds to Jaden Nunn from under the basket, and they threw it out to him at about half court. He had to reach up to get it. He got it, and then it was tipped. And he comes down and hits the guy on the way down because he had nowhere to land, and they called a foul on Jaden Nunn. I thought that was pretty bad, but overall, I didn't think it was great. I didn't think it was great, but it had no bearing on the game. I mean, Baylor just couldn't hold on to the basketball. Tyree, a lot more confident than I am. Baylor will beat Duke. The Spartan game is I think, an abnormal outlier to be taken with a grain of salt. I hope that's right. I mean, yes, it should be an outlier in that they shouldn't be losing games by 30 points. You're right. You're absolutely right. But if they play with that kind of effort and this is what we get out of this team, they won't win half the games in the Big 12. 4 or 5 teams in the Big 12, I think, this year are better than Michigan State, maybe at their best. So, obviously, I don't think they're going to put that kind of effort out the whole season. Of course not. They are better than that, but they need to prove that they're better than that. Because if it was half as bad today, I would say, yeah, no question, they're better than that. But how much better are they than that when they lose by 24 points? Comment coming from Drake. Did Baylor win? Didn't catch the last few minutes. Oh, man, are you sitting down? Are you sitting down? They didn't win. They didn't win. Biggie Cheese, do you think the 11-day break was at significant fault for us not playing well at all? I'm guessing you just tuned in. No, I don't. I don't think that's an excuse. I think that's a terrible excuse. Again, 11 days off means you have a slow start to the game. They had a slow start, middle, and end to the game. At no point was it good. At no point was it good. And it was mostly in the paint, which I just thought they were going to be better in this year. But it was not. They were minus 14. Oh, good Lord, have mercy. Minus 14 in the paint. Oh, out rebounded by 9. Gave up 29 rebounds. Turned it over 21 times. Their turnover count is old enough to drink in this country. 21 turnovers. Ugh. They go 6 of 19 from 3, which doesn't help, But honestly, with the versatility that this team should have on offense, now they should be a great 3-point shooting team for sure. But with the versatility that they showed us early on, you should be able to shoot 6 of 19 from 3 and win some games, or at least be somewhat competitive in some games. But I think the closest they got it in the second half was what, 20? Just horrific, man. Just horrific. Ugh. And how many times did Michigan State have a guard the size of me getting into the cylinder to get a rebound with no one around him? How is that possible? Flo Thamba didn't even let that happen, man. And it was happening time after time after time in the second half. Ugh. Horrific. Jaden Nunn was just not on it today, man. He gets 9 points, but turns it over 6 times. Airballs a free throw, which was the end of whatever that little run was. He got a nice and one that I think puts it at 7-0 or 9-0 or something like that. And then he just airballs a free throw, which no Power 5 player should be doing. No big-time high school player should be doing that. Airballs a free throw. 6 turnovers from him, 6 turnovers from Ray J. Dennis, who does put in 7 assists, but does that really matter when you lose by 24 points? Just terrible. Oh, brutal. Langston Love, 0 of 4 from the field in 18 minutes, puts up 4 shots, all threes, doesn't hit a single one, turns the ball over twice, 2 fouls. If he hadn't played at all, that would have been a plus. Ugh. Xavier Booker doubles his season average today, by the way. He was the guy I was not trying to trash, but I guess you could call it trashing yesterday. Just hadn't figured it out yet, Xavier Booker, compared to what Jacoby Walter did. Well, he plays 7 minutes, scores 7, 3 of 3 from the floor, 1 of 1 from 3. And it wasn't the best day ever at the office for Jacoby Walter. Plays 33 minutes, more than his season average. 3 of 9 from the floor. 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 9 points. Booker almost matches that in 7 minutes. Oof. 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 Biggie Cheese again. Why did we keep throwing contested lobs? Great question, man. I was looking at my own Twitter for it. I guess I didn't tweet it out. I definitely thought it and said it on the podcast, but I was just thinking they're good at lobbing the basketball. I love the pick and roll lobs, but they're not going to be able to do it with this kind of consistency when we get to the Big 12 schedule. And I didn't think they would. They would try it, but they tried it a lot today. Real basketball teams, which Baylor hadn't really played yet, real college basketball teams, don't let that happen over and over. Happened today. Happened today. JD Foy, tough loss, but there's a lot of season left. Expectations are dampened, but I think this group can prove their potential. Sure, but what is the potential? That's what I'm asking now. What is the potential? Because to me, it went from this team could win a national championship. I said it on Locked On Big 12 that there were 3 teams in this conference that could win a national championship and that were a step above everybody else, and that was Texas, Houston, and Baylor. I think that's 2 teams after today. I really hope I can change my mind, but we've seen one national championship team, and no one did anything close to that to them. They lost by 15 to Kansas after they had like 3 weeks off. That's different going into Allen Fieldhouse after 3 weeks. And they did put up a fight most of that game. It was just bad. Scotty says there hasn't been a national title as unbeaten since 1976 for a reason. It's tough to do that, and there will be off games. Sure, absolutely. And even the best team in the Big 12 is going to lose 5 or 6 conference games. But this is more than a loss right now. This was an abhorrent loss. This was a no contest. This was Michigan State coming into this game was a boxer that was on the ropes with 2 black eyes, cuts above their eyes, lost a tooth, collapsed lungs. someone in their corners just has the towel in hand, ready to throw it. And what Baylor did was they backed off the ropes, allowed them to come off, and then the guy with no eyesight just pummels Baylor into submission, man. Like Max Baer versus the guy he killed in the ring. To use an analogy there, that's what it looked like. No national champion undefeated since 1976. That's the year Rocky came out, so I'm using boxing references, and I'm losing my mind. Tyree, again, I'm telling you, the game was rigged. No way we beat number 6 that bad this year based on all our previous games. Okay, so I'm guessing you are a Michigan State fan, and you think it was rigged. Okay. I'm willing to hear it out, Tyree. I'm willing to hear it out. That'd be great for the brand for Baylor if it was rigged. They lost by that much. JD Foy. Baylor Athletics made too many undefeated social media posts leading up to the game. Maybe so, but this feels like Baylor Athletics this year. Not fun. It'll be interesting to see what Scott Drew says in the postgame. Is one comment. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it'll be shocking. We did get to hear him mic'd up during the game, and like he's never gonna just undress his guys in the huddle, and that's fine because it's worked for him for a long time. But you know, it was just sad hearing when he was mic'd up saying, "All right, biggest comeback in Baylor history. Let's win the medias." So win those 4-minute stretches. And I mean, they might have won the last 4 when Michigan State stopped playing, but they didn't win. They didn't win any medias today, man. That was terrible. So yeah, I think he'll talk about regrouping. And look, I mean, they're gonna play better on Wednesday against Duke. First off, they have to. They can't really play any worse, right? But yeah, I mean, a win over Duke, again, another reeling team, not as bad as Michigan State, but a win over Duke in MSG right before the holidays, before really the conference schedule. I think they got 2 games between Duke and the conference opener. That would do a lot for them. And hopefully do a lot for us, the fan. And I like to do these post games right after the game to be as emotional as possible. But that's why I'm trying not to come down from this. This is there'll be a measured commentary on Monday's show, but this was really bad, guys. This was really bad. And yes, there's extra pressure on this men's basketball team because we've just had such an awful football season that we are just dying to get behind something and to believe in something. And they faced one kind of real team and got absolutely battered, man. Biggie Cheese, anything you thought was good on Baylor's part? No. I had a bad feeling when they walked out on the court and it was gray jerseys versus green jerseys. I hated that. No, I didn't think anything was good on Baylor's part today. I don't think anyone is having a good night's sleep tonight. That was really bad, guys. And with the help of the good Lord and some good practices, that'll be the worst that it is all season. And Marquette was pretty much the worst that it was the whole season in terms of a lopsided loss. But again, it didn't get back to what it was before that. And the most disappointing part, again, was that nobody stepped up. Nobody showed some testicles, man. I know you can't do that on TV, but you know what I mean, man. No one showed some balls tonight and said, this isn't acceptable. I'm not going to let this happen. I'm not going to let this happen for this team. No one said, follow me, guys. Get on my back. I'm going to take us there. Nobody. Bear the truth. Do you think the first part of the schedule has been too soft? Sure. Yeah. A part of it is you schedule 2 top 10 teams in this stretch, and both of them aren't very good right now. Scott Drew can't control that. Michigan State being 4-5 and Duke being just over 500. You can't play that out. And Seton Hall, good coach. I think a team on the rise in the Big East, certainly not where they aim to be just yet. could be outside chance at a tournament team. I don't think so from what I saw from them when they played Baylor. Florida, outside shot at a tournament team. They looked a lot better than they did last year. Auburn, I think, is a tournament team. So it was okay. It was okay. Not as good as it was last year. You remember UVA and UCLA, I think both in the top 15 in 2 games in 3 days. You had Gonzaga. You had Marquette, obviously, which was a top 5 team at one point and is really, really good this year too. So you had, yes, it was a better schedule last year, but I mean, they kind of went through it basically the same way. So I don't know. Brooks says, as an MSU fan, this might be the best we will play this season. Just a desperate MSU team. Brooke, I hope you're right. Well, actually, I have no ill will for you guys for the rest of the season, but they came out ready to play. Absolutely, man. Baylor did not. Baylor was not ready to play, which was just disheartening. And again, you can see that for the first couple minutes, and that could be excused, but they did it for 40 minutes. They weren't ready to play. Michigan State was ready. They were pissed off, and they were ready for people to stop talking about how bad they are. And they've got a Hall of Fame coach with his back against the wall in front of his home arena, essentially. They weren't going to get embarrassed. They showed that from minute one that, hey, we're not going to get embarrassed today. They might still lose, but they weren't going to get embarrassed, and they did the embarrassing. They did the embarrassing. I don't know, Brooke. The Big Ten ain't that great. It's just not. It's not. I think you guys will get back on track. I think I said it in yesterday's show, even though that Michigan State's reeling right now, I thought they would get back into the rankings once the conference schedule came around. I think they're going to go on a nice little run. And I still thought Baylor was going to win by 15. Obviously, I wasn't in the locker room and huddles. None of us were, but I felt like no one was really pissed off or wanted it too bad. I feel like we just rolled over and took the L. Yeah, Biggie, I think that's true. I don't know what this team went through the last week and a half, and I still love their talent and their coaches, of course. But what made those teams so special a few years ago was they had guys who would just take it over and not allow that to continue. In the case of the 2020 and 2021 teams, they had at times 2 or 3 of those guys who would do that. And even in 22, James Akinjo was like that for sure. Matthew Meyer did turn out to quite be like that. Adam Flagler was kind of like that. He had a moment last year against TCU where he scored 17 straight points, put the team on his back. But that took till February to find that. If that's going to be the case this year too, they're not going to come close to the conference championship. So, yeah, we'll see. But I was disappointed in that too. I still like the makeup of this team better than I like the makeup of last year's team. I do. But I need somebody to step up. I thought that was going to be Ray J. Dennis, the way James Akinjo was 2 years ago, the transfer who comes in, but he runs the show at the point. I was hoping it would be Jalen Bridges, who, was the only returning starter and a guy who showed some real flashes towards the end of last season, even when things weren't going all that well for Baylor. I was wondering if it would be Jacoby Walter. That's not something I want to put on a freshman. Can't really blame him for that, but with his skill level, would that be him at some point this season? I don't know, but they don't have it yet. Bear the Truth says, shout out to you and Drake. Really enjoyed the Drake Toll show, and we'll miss y'all's shenanigans. Thank you. Thank you for joining along. I will still be on ESPN 1660 as a member of the Press Box, which is in the same time slot, 12 to 2, but certainly won't be the same kind of shenanigans, unfortunately, that Drake and I had. Drake is off to a lucrative sports job, which is going to be really awesome for him. But yes, it does mean the end of the Drake Toll show. So thank you for listening along. Hope you'll still follow our careers. Appreciate that. That's pretty much going to put a bow on this post game. As we wrap it up, I'm already starting to be like, oof, man, that might have been a little tough. So you guys softened me up a little bit. Monday's show will be a little bit more measured in my analysis of this game and going forward. And of course, you got the big one coming up on Wednesday at MSG, Baylor versus Duke. We will have a full breakdown of that. Plus, of course, unfortunately, a breakdown of this game as well. And we'll break down how the ladies do That's going to start in just a few minutes here. Ladies taking on now a ranked Miami team down there in San Antonio. So hopefully Nikki Collins' team puts out a better show, and we'll see how the men bounce back next week. Do you still have confidence in this team? I still have confidence in this team, but how far does that confidence go for you? Do we need to curb expectations here? Let me know down in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow along here. We're making it your first listen today and every day. Your team every day, Locked On Baylor.